Welcome back, Pauls. Let's see who was in that phone call. Let's go straightly to the chapter. It's chapter 6, An Invitation to Sleep. Who is this? Nancy asked, but the caller had cut off the connection. What had happened to her? Nancy wondered. Suddenly, she had sounded very distressed. Nancy hung up and waited for a second call, but the phone did not ring. Who was it? Mr. Drew asked, coming into the hall. Nancy told what has occurred. You didn't recognize the voice? He remarked. No, so I can't call back. Oh dear, someone is in trouble. I just know it. And here I stand helpless to do a thing. It's maddening. It certainly is, her father said. Well, dear, I must run down to the office. Presently, he left the house. After seeing that Hannah was comfortable, Nancy went to her bedroom and thoughtfully opened the closet door. This is as good a date as any to start Dad's investigation, she thought. Nancy took out a two-piece navy blue dress which made her look older than her 18 years. Next, she found a pair of comfortable low-heeled pumps. For several minutes, Nancy experimented with various hairstyles. She finally chose a simple off-the-face arrangement. Nancy put on a tiny pearl earrings, dusted her nose slightly with powder, and finally added a dash of lipstick. After she has changed her clothes and given herself a final appraisal, Nancy went to Hannah's room to tell her she was going out for a while. Gracious, Nancy, said the housekeeper, giving the girl a sharp glance. You look awfully businesslike today. Where are you going? Dad asked me to look up something for him, she said. I'll be back in time for lunch. Don't worry about that, said Hannah. I can get around. Have a good time, dear. When Nancy left the house, she consulted the list Mr. Drew had given her. Mrs. William Farsley, the first name on the paper, lived on Acorn Street, 7 blocks from the Drews' residence. Nancy set out at a brisk pace, rehearsing in her mind the approach on which she had decided. One of the girls' favorite community projects was a recreational youth center located in the downtown's River Heights. The center always needed voluntary help as well as entertainment for the children. A good way to find out something about Dad's suspect, Nancy decided, is to see how they will respond to a needy cause. And I'll be telling the truth when I say that I'm working for the organization. This resolved, Nancy soon reached a modest white house which was set back from a street a short distance. The front walk was outlined with pink and white peonies and the grass was well tended. Nancy rang the bell. The door was opened almost immediately by an elderly woman with wavy white hair and the greenest, most alert eyes Nancy had ever seen. Yes, she inquired pleasantly. Nancy introduced herself, then explained the purpose of her call. She was invited inside. Please be seated, said the woman, sitting down herself. Nancy chose a Duncan Pipe rocking chair covered with a black floral print. The hostess smiled. I'd be glad to help you with your project, my dear, she said, although I have no talent. Also, I don't leave this house very much. I'm a recent widow, you see, and I haven't been too well lately. Nancy expressed sympathy and said she understood completely. She liked this friendly little woman on first sight. Would a small check help your cause? The widow asked. Perhaps you could buy some equipments for the children. That would be wonderful, Nancy said. But I'm not soliciting funds. Mrs. Farley smiled shyly. I realize this, she said, but there's so little I can do to help others. Mr. Farley left most of his estate, which has modest interest, and I have only a tiny income to live on. The woman arose and, despite Nancy's protest, went to the desk where she wrote out a check. Nancy thanked her profusely, and then she realized that this was a sacrifice on the widow's part. I am glad I can help, said Mrs. Farley. Please come see me again and tell me how the youth center is coming along. Nancy promised to do this. After a few more minutes of conversation, she bade Mrs. Farley goodbye and left the house. If I am a judge of human nature, thought Nancy, that woman never did a mean thing in her life. When she reached the sidewalk, Nancy took out Mr. Drew's list from her handbag. Thoughtfully, she crossed out Mrs. Farley's name. Herbert Brown, the next suspect, lived in River Heights Estate, a rather exclusive housing area located on the outskirts of the city. It's kind of a long walk, Nancy told herself, but it will do me good. As Nancy strolled along, she was so engrossed with her thoughts that she failed to notice a sedan whose driver cruised by, honked the horn, then pulled over to the curb. As the door opened, a good-looking young man about 18 called, Hi, Nancy. To her surprise, she saw Don Cameron, who had been a fellow student in River Heights High School. Nancy had in fact gone to the spring pond with a tall black-haired boy. Hello, Don, she said. What are you doing home? I thought you were working on your uncle's farm this summer before going to college. Don grinned engagingly. I've been picking string beans and berries and hopping potatoes for nearly a month, he replied. But I have a leave of absence to attend my sister's wedding this Friday. Nancy had read of Janet's Carmen's wedding plans in the River Heights Gazette 2 weeks before. Jan must be excited, she exclaimed. Everyone at home is going round in circles, Don stated laughingly. Bill Bent, my brother-in-law to be, is no better. By the way, Nancy, Don continued, I am intended calling you later today. If you are free, Thursday afternoon and evening, I would like to have you to go to the barbecue party with me. It's being given in honor of Jan and Bill. I would love to, said Nancy. Where will it be? At the Herberts Brown home in River Heights Estate, Don said. Their daughter Lion in Jan's maid of honor. Herbert Brown, one of the possible suspects in the bank's security theft. Nancy could scarcely conceal her excitement. Although she did not like the idea of spying on a host, here was an excellent chance for her to find out what Mr. Brown was like. What time does the barbecue begin? Nancy asked. I'll call for you at 4, said Don. He offered to drive Nancy home and she opted beside him. When the young sleuth entered the house, she found Hannah in the living room. My goodness, the housekeeper exclaimed. You haven't solved the mystery already. I gave up, Nancy teased. What? With a grin, Nancy told why she has postponed her trip. I'll get some lunch for us, Nancy offered, and then drive her to the other 2 places on the list. Hannah chuckled. Since you said you'd be home, she said, I prepared a fresh fruit salad, it's in the refrigerator, and rolls ready to pop into the oven. You are a fine patient, Nancy scolded. I feel better keeping busy, Hannah countered. Nancy asked whether there had been any telephone calls in her absence. No, but you did get a postcard in the mail. Nancy went to the mail tray in the hall and recognized Helen Conning's writing. The message read, Dear Nancy, Aunt June and I have decided to take a week's automobile trip up north. We'll return directly to River Heights. Plan to stop and see Laura Pendleton on our way. Hope Hannah is better. Love, Helen. Nancy read the card aloud and commented, I hope Helen's let me know how everything is at the Abbon's home. Anyway, I'm going to call Laura myself in a few days to find out how she is and make a date with her to come here. Do you think her guardian will let her leave his care so soon? The housekeeper asked as she reached for her clutches. When there was no reply, Hannah looked out towards the hall. Nancy, normally rosy complexion, was deadly white. She looked as if she were about to faint. Oh my God, what happened to Nancy? Stay tuned for the next chapter, guys. Have a happy day.